what does snowboard relate to e-commerce itself? That's what we'll see, what it is. And also the emergence of e-commerce, right? The commerce has been, like human beings have been doing commerce for a very, very long time. But e-commerce is, if you look at like the time that we have been doing e-commerce, would you say 1996, around the time, like, 30 years. In about 5,000 years of commerce that we have been doing in some form, like 30 years is nothing. It's a blip. But in that blip, like, standing on shoulder of giants, we have done so many things, and it's evolving so much, and we are going to see like how the puzzle evolves. Before we go there, a little bit about myself. I have a digital consultancy that focuses on e-commerce, helping large e-commerce clients around the globe, in the US, Australia, Brazil, in different regions. And both on the retail side as well as the business to business side. If you're familiar with the terms like B2C, B2B, so I work on all those areas. And I've been running the company for many years, and then I'm passionate with technology, and I also am passionate with education, like what Prem was talking about. So I stepped down to do more technology and more education that I wanted to do, and that gives me time to do other things. So alongside, like I also co-founded 2 startups in the area of fitness, like Peloton. Like we make the treadmills as well as bikes and all that, and provide them on subscriptions. So there is a platform for that, as well as automotive marketplace, where we connect the mechanics and the auto parts distributors. So both these startups are like about 3-4 years old. And I also work with a lot of founders in helping. Founding journey is an arduous journey. For those people who have done this many times over here, I don't need to tell you all. It's an arduous journey, it's a lonely journey, and you need a lot of help. And I work with a lot of founders in helping them on navigating the challenges so that like they don't repeat the mistakes. They will do their own mistakes, but like they don't repeat the mistakes that some of us have done. And I also, like I said, passionate about education. I worked with women education by bringing or spending time with Girls Who Code. I don't know whether you all know about this organization called Girls Who Code. It was started by Reshma Saujani. This organization has empowered a lot of high school girls to decide computer science to be their choice, because there is a lot of women who are dropping out of STEM field as well as computer science that was seen. So I was fortunate to be part of that group and did a sabbatical teaching girls. And in my class, I had about 23 girls. I would say like 21 of them didn't know what computing was, because it's a nerdy thing. Girls don't like nerdy thing, that's a stereotype. But through this program, out of the 23, 21 chose computer science, and they are all in Ivy League schools. And they are all blossoming and doing wonderful things, working for big tech companies and also founding companies. So I'm very proud of that. And alongside, like, why not continue the journey of education? So I'm also involved in teaching at USF, University of San Francisco, teaching computer science over there. And as an adjunct professor, I teach 1 class a semester. So keep myself involved in the youth, make sure that I understand and also propagate what we all are trying to do here, right? To have more people educated in the right way, as well as people who can be set up to form companies, build companies, and be the future. So that's about me. My day with Object Edge, that is my company, where we focus on e-commerce, working with our customers on B2B, B2C, digital transformation and all that stuff, all these words that you would know. So I spend most of the time here. And the 2 startups are also focused on e-commerce. And these two startups, like I said, fitness space, automotive space, they look like very different. But in the end, you will see that there is a pattern to all of this stuff where it's all about selling things to customers and providing an exceptional service with which you can retain those customers. That's a challenge in any commerce. It doesn't matter e-commerce or not. Any commerce, the key thing is to be able to have a good product first, right? That's a basic thing, right? If you have a good product, many people think like if you have a good product, people will buy. That's not true. So you need to have a good product, that is the base. And after you have the good product, you need to know how to market it, how to get your customers, how to sell it. And once you do all of that stuff, the tough part is how do you retain them, right? How do you make them buy more from you? Or like, how, when you think about big brands, it's always, you'd always be amazed at like, how big brands like Apple, like, things that bring customers as fans and they stay attached to that brand. It's not because of something that it happened automatically, just because of the product. Even there is something more than the product that you need to do, and we'll see all of those. So anyway, that's my background. When we talked about like, what is snowboards and commerce, right? What I wanted to highlight is that the Shopify as a platform, which does today close to $1 trillion of GMV transactions, came from a frustration of not being able to sell snowboards. So Toby, who was the founder of a Canadian founder, he was setting up a snowboard store. He was a passionate, snowboarder, Whistler, amazing place to ski and snowboard. And in there, he wanted to set up a snowboard stores, and he was trying to use a lot of off-the-shelf tools that failed. Otherwise, you have to buy an enterprise platform. You need to go to bigger companies with which you have to set up these stores. But it was not easy, so he cobbled together, like we are all doing today in our day jobs and all that stuff, like cobbling together things, building things, and that's what he did. And until the pivotal moment came, only it started as a small mom and pop company, and it stayed a lifestyle company for many, many years. The pivotal time came in about 2010 timeframe, when how do you scale? This is another part of the journey for all startups. One thing is being successful is one thing, getting customers, and then you get into this humdrum of staying flat. And that's not a bad thing. If you're making money, for yourself and your shareholders, that's great. But how do you grow your company beyond that? And that inflection point came in 2010 for Shopify itself. And then they went IPO, and rest is history. So what does this tell you? This tells you that the frustrations that every corner, frustrations are basically opportunities. The frustration that Prem saw in not being able to educate rural children, right, is an opportunity. He took that as an opportunity. It's the same entrepreneur journey that he took, and he converted that into a trust that is doing amazing work. And that's exactly what happens with companies like this. This is not one. There are many examples from Silicon Valley. Shopify, Stripe from Silicon Valley, where you all know Stripe, right? You use Stripe some form, right? They have the rails for payments today, and that came from a frustration of not being able to. When there are other payment methods, PayPal and this, why do you need to start one more? Square, there are different players, but Patrick and John started this because the payments were not happening in the way a merchant, a street merchant, or a small shop would want to do. So that happens, and today, they are the biggest rates, especially in the AI race today. They happen to be playing a significant role, which we'll see also. So,
in fact, they offered to PayPal to acquire.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. Right. So this Today is like, the new 2004. We are in 2026, we are at an inflection point, again, standing on top of this AI precipice. What are we going to build next? There are a lot of businesses that we didn't know before. Before when iPhone came, new set of businesses started, right? There's so many things that can happen. We all only can guess and imagine, but all of this starts from discussions like this, discussions like what we are having today. What are we going to do today to empower the future businesses so that we can tap into the infrastructure today, what we have. The infrastructure of yesteryears where internet and phone and all that stuff, you will see. So we have the 2004 to 2026, different stages. At every stage you see that there is an infrastructure that became a business need. An infrastructure became a business need. And today it's the same thing. Nothing has changed with respect to that pattern, but I hope I'm not too loud.
No, you're good.
So I hear myself, so I was right. It's always like my wife telling me, you're too loud, so yeah. So today we have this agentic AI and the foundational models, and what every business wants, and every business is thinking that I need to be autonomous, including e-commerce businesses. How do we become autonomous in a way that we use the current technologies in the best way possible? I always think the way to do this is there are more than 4 different ways, right? But there are key shift that's going on that has been wanting in e-commerce, that has not been addressed in a long time. I used to tell my customers, which no one listened to me, was this important thing, that understand the intent of the buyer. And it is always difficult. It's not that they didn't want to understand the intent of the buyer. Whenever you go to a site, think about anything that you bought recently. Think about the experience that you had online. It's a very transactional experience. You go buy a pair of shoes. The reason why you buy a pair of shoes, nobody understands. And that's the intent that I'm talking about, right? And that intent is being guessed by clicks, a lot of data. You were talking about machine learning, a lot of algorithms, click streams, whatnot, and all that stuff. I have a simple suggestion. Why not ask the user? When they come to your site, they want to buy a shoe, ask them, build a pop-up that says, what are you buying this for? I'm running a marathon. Oh, you have a great intent. You can sell so many things to that person. Or you can help that person. It's not just say, you can create that relationship with that person. But nobody does that, right? But things are changing. The consumers are wanting to do that, right? Consumers are doing that themselves, and there are tools outside that's going to do if merchants are not going to move fast enough. And that's what is happening. To me, this is the key. People are not interested in asking you questions about whether you have the product. They want to know whether you understand my intent, whether you understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. And then the second part is, how am I interacting with you? Website, mobile. Even today, most of my customers, their mobile sites are less than functional in the way that it has to be the best experience in an experience that doesn't feel like it exists, right? You should not feel like I went through this experience. Once you feel, then there's a friction. And how do you build that kind of an experience for different users based on their personas, based on what exactly they are asking for and things like that at runtime? And that's another shift. And then internal operations. How do I price things, right, for this customer, right? Prem wants to buy something at a particular cost, and his budget is this. What can I do? What are the products that I can provide them, or like, what is my pricing thresholds with which I can make those decisions. Today, that's very elastic. Every retailer or every merchant who's selling online has a threshold of this can be, I can make 30% margin to 10% margin based on time, so many factors that goes into that. But why not expose that to the customer, right? Like, if Prem says that, like, he wants to buy this only with this particular budget, you would rather have him as a customer, right, at a particular cost that he's willing to pay than not, right? How can you make that elastic? The reason why they don't do it today is not because of brand value and all that stuff. It is not because the systems and tools and technologies are very complicated to accomplish such a thing. And today, those things are becoming easier with AI and agentic mechanisms. And then lastly, interacting with other companies, interacting with, like, your payment providers, search providers, and different providers that is across the gamut of e-commerce. That's all becoming easy. Any workflow that you do, those things can be made, like everybody is exposing their agents, and you are able to talk to their agents and all that stuff. And you can do that, and that's another shift that is happening. So, in a way, these 4 shifts are very important in e-commerce, where this is going to shape the future of, like, how merchants as well as retailers are going to respond to the new generation of tech. You can read this, but you can see that, like, the old tech stack is this. This is what you're used to today. You go to shopping, you search, and then you go into storefront, you have templated pages. There are customers today who say, oh, I need to make a new page for this particular product. That's a project in a company. And that page gets released about 6 days later. And there are, like, I work with telecom companies. Apple announces their next phone. Nobody knows what it's going to be. The keynote happens about the next phone, and the next phone needs to be on the telco company's website in 48 hours, right? So that people can shop. This is a product that you don't know what it is, how much it is going to be, and what are the plans that it can work with. So they need to scramble to do all of this stuff, right? And that's one just simple example, but those things are entirely possible, even much more than that is possible with the new tech that we have with the generative technology. And the second part I was talking about is the catalogs itself. You need to still have structure and taxonomy of your products. When you think about a product comes to life. As consumers, when you go to a page, you see a product, some information, pricing, whether it is available or not, some specs, this, that, and all. You see all this information, and all this information is structured information sitting somewhere. But the structured information many times don't answer your questions. And the questions that you may have, then you may have to go to talk to somebody, talk to a friend who has bought it, or, like, talk to an expert. So for you, the buying experience is so fragmented because every question that you have cannot be fit into a structure that's already understood. But that's where, in the age of AI, the semantic understanding of these, they all come together to make things happen. That's made easier. So that's what, for AI native companies, these are the ones they should be focusing on. And we'll talk about, like, some examples of what this is like. And I just want to pause here and then say, like, is this too technical, or like all good? This is all good? Okay. So, if there is one thing that you can take away from what I'm saying today, is that any e-commerce, if you're working with any merchant, anybody, if you are a merchant yourself, you're building e-commerce, understand the intent, everything else follows. Right? You don't need to worry about, of course you need to worry about other things. I'm saying this is the key thing. If you understood this, then all the other things will fall in place. Here is a practical example. This is, like, a real example that I went through. So I'm a avid biker. So when I'm not coding or when I'm not working, you will see me on a bike climbing one of these mountains in the Bay Area. And I wanted to get better, so I wanted to buy a trainer. A trainer is something that you set up at your home and then you bike, so that you can bike during rain and all that stuff, right? When it rains outside. So this is the bike. This is my friend's bike, and I want to put it on the trainer. And I went to Wahoo Fitness. This is Wahoo Fitness site, and then I put the picture of my bike, and then I said, does this fit Kicker Core? Kicker Core is one of their product which attaches to the bike so that I can bike at home. I asked this question, and the answer is, it's called Helper Bot, very cute. Is your question concern about specification, setup? So,
can I ask when this was?
this was, when was this? It was 6 months ago. Yeah, it was 6 months ago. Wahoo Fitness, who produces one of the best trainers that you can have, has this experience with a chatbot which doesn't understand what my question was.
Yeah, this is clearly not using modern.
And they're not alone. I'm telling you, Peloton is in this. Of course, they make their everything, so there's nothing to search like this. The biggest of big retailers, you will have this experience. Because these are all called chatbots. I don't even like the term chatbots. Nobody goes to chat. They're not your friend. It's supposed to be a solution bot, answer bot, right? So, what I did this instead. I went to Gemini. Same thing. I gave the URL for Wahoo Fitness page that has tons of specifications and information that I could not make head or tail out of. And then, without me telling, based on the image, it automatically found it's a Cannondale, what brand, what things, and Wahoo Kicker, it fits. Just go ahead and buy. So, this is an experience what customers want. Are you going to be building this experience for your customers if you're involved in e-commerce? Or you're going to provide a chatbot, which is, and call it an AI bot. And a lot of companies do that today. They provide a chatbot, and there's always a disturbing thing that pops up whenever you go on our site and ask a lot of questions and doesn't provide any answers. And this example is a very practical example. In fact, recently, Starbucks partnered with OpenAI. And I tried that immediately, and the experience was horrible. In fact, their ad says, somebody goes to Starbucks to order coffee which is in the color of my pants. Who orders like that? Right? That's their ad to get. But anyway, even if that is the case, that is from a technological standpoint, it's cool, right? Order a coffee in the color of or tea in the color of my pants and things like that. But when you try to order coffee using OpenAI, what they have released, it first doesn't find where you are, doesn't suggest where the store is, and then when you type in I want a flat white, extra hot, it gives you a menu option, and then you can go check based on that. I think you're buying a hot drink. So it's a very reductive experience. This is a big brand like Starbucks, which has started. Of course, it's a start of their journey. They are doing this, but these things are figured out already. Like I said, you don't need to make this very difficult, right? And they have made it very difficult, unfortunately for all of us. So the question is, again, it's not data. People always come to say that I don't have enough data. It's not data. It's all about identifying that intent. It's all about that semantic nature of complicated queries that people give you. How do you make sense out of that? So, because Prakash told me that I should talk about building systems, so I have a prescriptive way of going about it, and here is the blueprint. I think that would work. I already told you enough about intent. If you took nothing from this, the only thing I want to stick is that intent is the key, right? Rest you can forget, right? But intent alone is not enough, but you need to do all of these things. And that is what we talked about, the experience, the orchestration with workflows and all that stuff, to be able to work with data. We'll see each one of those things in detail, but all of these things are enabled today with AI technology. So this is yesterday. I want blue running shoes, men's size 10, waterproof. There are a lot of technologies that people have used technologies like Endeca, and I'm sure you may be familiar with some search tools, Algolia, the next generation of tools after Endeca. Because to configure Endeca, you needed a PhD, right? And then you had a lot of consultants that need to help you get you the right results. But even then it didn't work, right? And then Oracle bought Endeca, and then the whole story. So now, then there is the new crop of companies like Algolia, Reflection, who are much more semantic oriented, did much better job with long tail search keywords like this than, because these things would be separated as shoes, men, this, and then it will give you all kinds of stuff, search stuff. But we got from here, and today, like I said, the question is, I'm training for a marathon. My knees are short, so is my budget, that's what it says. So, find products for me. How do you handle this? And that is to understand the context. And I feel there are 4 different ways to look at the context. One is very explicit, the customer tells you. And that is the worst part. I was a customer telling Wahoo Fitness what exactly I wanted, they ignored it. Okay? So that's the explicit part of it. I sent a photo, I told them what exactly I wanted, they said I don't care, here is my canned set of answers. Behavioral is the where you go behind the scenes and figure it out. Right? I clicked here, I clicked there, what do I understand from you? If I clicked all the men products, then maybe you are a man, right? All kinds of things like that. Contextual is a lot of other factors that would come together. Past sessions would be the key one, I would think, past orders, what I have ordered. So you know my size. How many times you go to a shoe store that you ordered this shoe size and they ask you again, what shoe size? And in fact, I should not be, unless I want, I should not be even seeing shoes that is not of my size. That's not available. Why bother me with all kinds of junk when I've clearly told you what I wanted, or I have clearly ordered from you? That's the inference part of it, that is the contextual. And then lastly, the social part of it, other things that I have done. So this is some random weightage, don't put too much weight to this weightage. But these 4 things are how you get to the intent of what the customer wants. Right? Are you all with me?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
One question.
Yeah, sure.
When you probe into the intent of customer, at what point you say that you're crossing the privacy limit, or when you ask the question?
That's a very good question, Mahesh. So that's where you let the customer choose. You ask a question respectfully and then say, would you be willing to provide this information, or this is too much? The customer can decide at that point, you know what, I want to engage more. More often than not, you will see that the customer wants to provide that information because they are in there for a transaction that they want it to be successful, as eager as the merchant is. Right? They want it to be successful, so you can let the customer adjust. Right? This is a dialogue between the customer and the commerce store, where the customers can figure out, what is the best way I can interact with them, whether I'm crossing the boundary or not. Then you can do the setup, right? Don't ask me, there are some people who are just transactional. I just want transaction. I just want to go there, buy, get out.
Yeah, the problem is, today, it's an all or nothing approach, right? So apps, when I download an app, it says, allow me to track my transactions across all other applications. There's no way I'm going to allow an app to track across all my transactions across all the applications. That's number one. Number two is location, right? So allow me to track your location wherever you are. There's no way I'm going to do that. So that what I'm saying is an all or nothing approach is what we take.
Right, and that is where I face this all the time. So there are multiple approaches. You need to sell the value of, because today everybody asks and doesn't provide any value. The problem is that you get a lot of data from the customer, but you're not giving them anything back. When you do that, that equation is lost, and that's where the frustration begins. Show the value before you ask for the data. Whenever you ask for any data, because people today are everywhere people think, let me get all the data that I want, and then I'll figure out what to do. That's the worst approach that you can have. You have to be, in fact, internally you have to be intent driven. That means, what is your intent of asking this data? In fact, government does this really well. I was talking to the chief data officer of San Francisco. They said, the data they collect, every attribute about every person, every business, the city data that they collect, for every attribute, they need to write a lot of information about why they need that attribute. And they need to make sure that attribute who has access to. Because the more data you collect, the more responsibility you have as a security officer or whoever in your company, that how do you manage that? Of course, we are going into a different topic, but if you don't, it's a value-driven equation. If you want something from the customer, think about what you're going to give them back. If you don't give something back, but you're asking in the hope that you will give something, at least make that clear from the beginning. I'm not going to give you something, but this may help. So then the customer can adjust and then say, you know what, I want to give you this information. So for Uber, you would say that Uber wants to know your location. Their denying Uber location is not going to work for you. So the value proposition is very clear. Whereas Amazon, you're ordering something, maybe the value proposition is not that great if you're ordering from home all the time. So that's not a big thing. So you have to pick and choose, and you are already picking and choosing, and make that onus of the merchant or the retailer to provide that value. Okay, so that's
what our comment there is, where the challenge is the consumer privacy perspective. Consumer doesn't have the control over this. I mean, what purpose that guy, whoever is collecting the data is maybe. Let's say the Uber guy collects your information and uses for somebody for some other reason, or starts selling your data. How does that consumer really can moderate or control the release of my personal information?
That will be in the terms and conditions, very clearly stated.
Yeah,
Now you can give it to ChatGPT, it will summarize it for you.
Nobody reads it, everybody.
That's my point. Give it to ChatGPT, it will read it for you.
no, it's
That's
a
how we
challenge,
are all
right?
wound up.
I don't have an answer on how the consumer would know, because today collecting data has become a hobby for many internet enterprises, right?
They run the business on that.
Yeah.
Privacy is a myth today.
Exactly. I was going to say that. That's it. Everybody knows our information. All these, including user, the entire US knows your information as well. So, there is nothing
So,
there
which is-
is no place to hide.
When the network is born, that time itself, you have to get over with it.
Yeah, which is one side of the equation, and it's a problem, and that's why regulations like GDPR and all that stuff California is way behind. Actually, way ahead in the US, way behind when it comes to what the privacy restrictions are, and that's where, for me, as technologists, as business people who are running various businesses, when you go back, when you are asking customers of their data, think about what value you're going to provide. And that's my point. Don't ask something if you don't know what you're going to be providing, in the hope that you will be providing.
GDPR is different from what you are.
discuss in detail.
Say that again.
Yeah, it's very different from what you are explaining, GDPR. We'll discuss
So-
something right now.
Not quite, but we can definitely talk about it. Yeah.
Just one question on this. So you talk about intent, but any standard NLP kind of has two aspects to it. One is the intent, and I also feel there is an entity component. Entity, so intent will definitely tell you why part of it, and then the what part of it comes from the entity which is mentioned in what they want. So I think that is also very important, because I'm trying to see map it to any of these, maybe the contextual to some extent, but I feel like, me coming from a total NLP background, I always feel entity is so important, and I'm just trying to see if maybe you're covering it later or.
Yeah,
I mean,
actually, he makes a very good point. It is on the contextual part of it, but when we are talking about here, the focus is on how do you get the intent of a person, which is so. There is another thing called the knowledge graph of different entities that you would have in any situation, right? Which we are going to talk about in the data part of it. But thanks for bringing that up. The intent, typically in this case, is of an entity, and this entity is the shopper as an entity. And the shopper also has a persona, different things. Like all of this stuff are what I call the different facets of the entity, and you are going to model for that entity what they are trying to do. And the shopper persona itself can be you can have a complicated persona with respect to whether that person is a man, woman of this particular age, and they have this range that they can spend, budgets and all that stuff. So those are modeled like he talked about as entities. But those entities, in the end, what they want is what we are figuring out with respect to the intent, based on various parameters. The next part, like the four shifts that I was talking about, I'm just keeping us all framework. So earlier, this was not possible to be able to personalize, and personalization is a holy grail for anybody who's been involved in e-commerce, right? People you talk. There are so many companies in the personalization space that I want to personalize by this next item, things like that, right? Next best item that you can buy, or along with this, buy along with this, right? Things like that. So those personalizations are of 2010s. Today, we can do so much more when we understand the intent, and the hyper-personalization is possible with re-ranking of your catalog per session, because it's possible today that you can do it so fast with engines that are available today. And this is not something that is something that I'm suggesting that we'll do in the future. There are many companies doing it today. You may not realize it when you're shopping, and I'll give you some examples. And composing the page, what you get when you see the site and what he gets will be completely different. And they are all done at real time. Unlike the customers that I was talking to you about, who have creating a page for a particular product as a project, right? They're all behind, but this is possible today. And then the pricing elasticity I was talking about, right? You are coming through a different funnel. You have a different relationship with a particular channel that referred you. Then I have a different pricing, different structures. To those. All of those things can be done by policies. If you let AI with the right guardrails of these things, then you can do magic with the customer experience. That's the idea.
It's being abused also, right? So for example, the same Uber ride, apparently, if you request an Uber ride from an Android phone, the price is lower. If you request it from an iPhone, the price is higher.
Yeah, so I agree. Every tech can be used for good, bad, ugly, whatever, right? The idea is to be able to understand what's that, the same thing can be used to do good too, right? So how do you use the technology? The idea is to be able to use the technology to do this. What I'm trying to say here is, don't think about the old world of a fixed design all the time. The designs can be very dynamic, It can be based on the customer intent, shopper persona, different things, and you can do it right when the customer is on your site. You don't need to do it later, or you don't need to do something that you need to follow up later. That's the idea with respect to experience. So today the customer is not like waiting to only work with you on the website or mobile. There is audio, video, different ways with which they want to interact with you, right? And there are tools that are available. And you have agents that are all, now tomorrow it's going to be, the future is going to be, it's the agentic systems that shop on behalf of you, that's going to be negotiating with the merchants and making that purchase for you, right? And that's where things are going. And the price at this point, because there's nobody is there is a price elasticity that will happen automatically. Your agent will negotiate with Amazon's agent, and Amazon's agent will know that, like, this product, I can reduce the price, and it will deliver the product at that particular price for you. And already Perplexity and all, they're all trying to do this in this space. Funny thing is, Perplexity is being sued by Amazon, that their site is not something that can be used by bots, right? Like, it's very strange coming from Amazon itself. I know that, like, I don't know how much time I have. I don't want to keep you guys late on a Friday night. But the next part is the composition of bringing all the different pieces of commerce together. I call this the composable commerce. You may have heard of this term, composing services. There are multiple services that all come together to make commerce orchestration happen. And there are platforms like Commerce Tools, which provides the commerce engine. They are truly composable. When I say truly composable, what I mean by that is, if you go to Oracle, if you go to SAP, or if you go to like XYZ, Microsoft, they all have a e-commerce platform, and that's very monolithic. That you buy the whole thing, set up, pay a SaaS license, and then let use it, or like even server license and use it. Whereas in tools like these, Commerce Tools, not so much Shopify, Elastic Path, and other commerce players, what happens is you can only use their pricing services. You can only use their catalog services, only promotion engine. I don't want to use everything. I pay by what I use. And that's what is called composable, that I'm composing my e-commerce platform with various, the best of breed services that either I have built or something available outside. And such player already exists, and they come under a term called MARC. There is an alliance called MARC Alliance. And MARC Alliance is like microservices based, API first, cloud native, headless way of building applications. That's what MARC is for. And in this, they all pick their lanes. There is content, CMS, a company that, like Contentful, that makes CMS, search, I was telling you about TypeSense, Algolia, and all that stuff. Identity, checkout, we talked about Stripe and all that stuff. So how do you combine all of this stuff together? First of all, you need to have a composable structure before you go AI. People try to go AI first and then try to figure out, like, how to work within their systems. It's not going to work that well. You're going to provide the same experience that Wahoo Fitness provided to me. Okay? So earlier it was the the APIs that we all wrote, 2014 to today, where we have a lot of point-to-point connections and all that stuff. Now we know with Anthropic introducing MCP and Google with their A2A and different ways with which you can have your tools exposed and agents exposed. You have the new world available to you. Right? We already know this is specifically with respect to e-commerce. And they all have come up with their own frameworks. I think, like, it's going to be the VHS versus Betamax kind of a thing that will happen, and somebody will win. I think my bet is on Google, but Google has their own framework, the Universal Commerce Protocol, UCP, along with their agent protocols and all that. OpenAI has ACP with Stripe. Surprising thing is all of these people have all combined together. They're all merchants and everybody supports these protocols. Amazon's decided that I want to do my own with Rufus. and they have their own proprietary protocol. If you want to play with me, use this, otherwise no. Protocols that are coming from outside, people who are seeing this problem, like the snowboard Shopify problem, watch out for this company, Rai. And they have created an open source universal checkout API with which any product that you have on any merchant, you can buy using them. And they make every product orderable with just a product URL. You give them a product URL, you can check out right off their bot. So that's, and they are also, you can connect to Stripe or whatever payment, any payment rail that you have here. And Perplexity has taken an easy route, which is to click on your behalf, right? Instead of connecting, that's a difficult problem to do. Perplexity said, I want to order shoes for $200 from this merchant. Go to this site and order for me. It will go click like you, and then do that. And that's what Amazon is fighting about, because Amazon is showing a lot of ads and nobody's seeing them. It's the bots, right?
So I'm surprised Shopify is all on this list.
So Shopify is not like, they don't have their own protocol. Shopify is because they have a platform provider, and they are working with both Google and OpenAI on supporting both.
They were the beta partners for Google.
Yeah.
Before Google announced it, they were the only ones who were working with
Yeah.
them.
But they're enabling, so what, through Shopify, they're enabling these.
So there is a button in Shopify if you're a merchant. You click on that, you will be following one of the protocols, right? And your products will be available through Gemini or agents, which allow you to buy them.
So Rai, are you saying that it will do the web crawling and figure out, check out for any type of service / product all over the internet?
So it's not global yet, but it's for the US. At least they're promising
US.
for all US merchants. And it was funny that, like, I was trying out Rai myself, and Amazon had blocked them, and then they are working with Amazon to unblock and all that stuff. So their promise is to be able to do any product that you find on the internet. I just need the product URL and I'll make the checkout possible. So what they do is, they take the product, they connect to Stripe, your payment goes through Stripe, or mostly Stripe. And after that, you can use, they will connect with the merchant so that, like, they can send the fulfillment. And the way they do fulfillment is click, click, click kind of a approach to place that order on your behalf on the merchant and finally close the loop.
So vendor merchant never have to register with Rai.
No, merchant does that. Yeah.
How about the Facebook marketplace? Not in the list.
Marketplace is another beast. We can talk hours about those, but you're right. Commerce should include marketplace, but Facebook Marketplace is also a closed system, right? In a way that it's like a system where, like, there is marketplace companies like Mercado Libre, eBay, Facebook. All of these guys have gotten the products in there, and then, like, customer completes their transactions with it. It's almost like, how Amazon is, right? In a way. Yeah.
So why do I need to go to Ray? For example, I have the Amazon URL. What is the necessity to go to the Ray?
Because of the agentic nature with which you want to allow people to shop. So Ray is not like, your consumer product. Ray is a product with which you can build your e-commerce solution for merchants, so that, like, any product that you want to buy, you can enable your customers to. It's not like as a consumer that I would go use Ray. They don't have a consumer play. They are a B2B play where they provide this as a solution so that others can use it. So let's say tomorrow you're, what's your name? Damu. So Damu, you want to create a store tomorrow that sell swimwear, let's say, okay? Swimwear, swimming products. But you want to provide a whole solution. You want to provide that agentic intent-based solution for your swimwear products. It's not even your products. You want to provide a service with which, like, you know enough about swimming, you have been coaching people about swimming, let's say that's all true. Then you want to be able to provide that intent layer with which you have curated enough information, enough of your knowledge as part of the shopping experience, and you want to, once everybody put this together, you want that shopping experience to be happening like this. I bought 3 products from Amazon, 2 products from Leslie's Pool, and 2 products from somewhere else. And that happens in one bundle, and one click I buy everything. If you want to provide that experience, rise for it. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Finish. So marketplace of Google, now it has been ranked at the top. So they are very good at contracts and lot of B2B commerce. Okay, where does it stand in this area?
So,
Are they planning or is it, because I worked in that product.
right, so what we're talking about is the consumer play, not the B2B
They have a-
play. They do have a B2B. So B2B is completely a different beast. The reason why we can talk more about it, okay? But I'll tell you very quickly with respect to B2B. B2B products are one extremely hard to work with. They are complicated products. Like take high tech. Like we are in the high tech area here. Take high tech products like Cisco selling products or any networking company selling products. Those products are entirely configurable. It's for specific use, and it's bundled with this, and you buy it in bulk. It's not like bought like 1 unit at a time and all that. So it's a different beast altogether. Google, it's like a pure enterprise play. Google does have some solutions, but there are other people, other purpose-built enterprise class agentic systems that helps B2B commerce. So I don't know who's going to win, but of course, the cloud providers, along with like agentic companies like Google, are also trying to win that game.
What about TikTok? What do they use?
So TikTok at this point, like when you use the shopping experience, it's again a proprietary mechanism that they are using. They are again a surface like TikTok, Instagram. You can buy from Reels and things like that. It's very similar. Yeah.
So, going back to Rai, so there is a consumer, merchant, Rai, and then Amazon. Is that the right stack?
So, Rai is a purpose-built, whatever that you want to build as an e-commerce, either as a merchant or as a person that wants to curate certain things like Etsy or things like that. You can use that mechanism to empower your customers to buy.
So my question, let me distill my question. So, ultimately the merchant is ordering on Amazon and see the product price on Amazon directly, and he's not going to pay more than the price he would see on Amazon. And how would the merchant make money out of this whole transaction?
So, I'm a bit confused about merchant. Like, it's not the merchant who's ordering, right? It's consumer who's ordering, a customer who's ordering from Amazon.
Yeah.
And the merchant is the brand that you're talking about that's putting that product in the marketplace.
Somebody is integrating with Rai. There is some integrator merchant who is ultimately acting as a proxy between Amazon and the consumer.
I mean, when you think of Rai as, the PayPal button, that's all Rai is all about. You have a merchant and he wants to sell that stuff. Instead of putting all these things, he puts Rai. It's basically someone who's building the merchant website can put that in, and it acts as the interface for all these, other calls and stuff like that. So it's like
a consolidator.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a middleman.
Middleman.
It's a middleman approach.
I'm going to finish in about.
Okay, thank you.
5-10 minutes. I'm sorry.
I'm wanting to ask, Rajesh can be there.
Sorry.
So, look, you started with 4 shifts. Okay, the first one you said was intent replaces query. I really find it, and I wanted to ask this right up front, and you put it right. Look, Google owns the intent. Put the intent front door, right? Where is the opportunity now to provide even a front door or even like the intent experience?
It's a very good question. That's the.
I'll kind of complete my.
Okay.
Secondly, the interface becomes generative. That's great. But in the same token, you also mentioned that that as soon as you have an interface, there is friction. Everything is agentic. There is no interface anymore. So essentially, one question is, where is the opportunity for an entrepreneur anymore? Number one. And secondly, will this become outdated in 6 months?
Very good questions.
It's already outdated.
You're right.
I'm struggling to understand the opportunity.
So for the first part, I'll answer this shortly, saying that Google owned the search. Okay, Google can search many of our customer products, merchants' products better than the merchant's website itself. But we still have merchants have website. Google has their own site.
Google can often search merchant products more effectively than a merchant's own
That is-
site by using advanced
that's my
machine
phone.
learning to interpret search intent.
Google and argument.
So
You can pause and walk away.
I know.
You had a question.
I'll probably give you this.
That's your answer. That's the answer for your
So
question.
for you to
Was that the intent?
exactly. So for that, the brands will still want to own their own experience, even agentic ones. I'm sure, the experience can start from it is, in my opinion, opportunity. You may be totally right. It may be gone completely. There won't be any need for merchants to have any agents, but I doubt it. I think, agents will want to claw back their experience of agentic experience. What I mean by that is their experience from Google, which is going to be a generic experience.
No, but that's the whole point. It's like companies like Rai, for instance, I call it like UPI for URL.
Yeah.
That's exactly what Rai is doing.
Yeah.
That's like game over, right over there. You go to Google, now I'm chatting with ChatGPT and saying that, look, I want to buy this. Rai has an integration with ChatGPT done. Where is the
So there are complications related to that. One is buying process, then the customer care process, as well as you have your returns. So it's not like just the buying transaction. There are a lot of other things that happen for which there has to be experiences that you need to have with your customer. But you are totally right. I don't have a crystal ball, but if I had to bet, I would say the fact that we go to Google to search and still many people go to Amazon directly to buy the products, and many people go to their favorite brands and buy their products. Those things exist in parallel, right? So my bet is that will continue. Okay, unless
That's
it's
a follow-up, but I'll take it.
yeah. You had another question, but we can definitely talk about it after. Okay.
I can throw it in.
So I'm sorry, I don't want to hold you all long. So like I said, my bet is on Google winning this game. That's what I think, and that's where we are. The last part of it is the data I was talking about. This is where you were mentioning about entities, and these are the entities that you have. The customer having this is a knowledge graph in a way of what different entities are and how they are relate together. And there is this concept of ontology with which you can have a knowledge graph with relationships, with actions and all that stuff. That powered with some context layer on top of it, you can make things much better. So you can get these. And today with the advancements that we have with respect to traversing the graphs and all that stuff, things have become much better, and there are many ways to use them. This is another topic, just by itself we can talk more. But in the end, the idea is to have this feedback loop. If you are going to be building e-commerce stores, that to be able to do all of the stuff and ability to continue to empower your customer context, get your customer context and empower their journey. And let's quickly look at the operations also. A lot of these things are very manual today, even today. So with a lot of systems, a lot of technologies coming together, they can get much more automated. And especially when you are in agentic mode, you need to make sure that what is your margin, what is your thresholds. You need to set all of that stuff, and that is very important. And somebody was talking about, I think it was Lena was talking about, privacy, governance. How do you this AI, as much as it can help, it can also throw you under the bus with a lot of problems that you have. You can have to have the right guardrails and human in the loop for when thresholds are bigger. It's all per brand and per e-commerce what you would be wanting to do. So making the proper evals so that you have the golden sets, golden truth, so that you can test against what could happen here. So this is again with respect to the cost, like where you were spending before and where we are spending money now. The money is all being spent in the inference. It's not like the earlier acquisition cost, how you see this. So you will have better targeting, and then with your time to catalog, like when a product comes, when a product's released, it takes a lot of time for a product from product entering a store. Every minute a product has gotten into your warehouse to the time it goes in front of the customer is money lost, right? And that one is now, you can change it to hours. You can create those creatives and getting this in place very quickly. So, like I said, your USP is going to be the unique data loops you create. The example I gave with Damu, where if you are a curator of things, that you can provide better service to your customers than a generic service. So that's where the moat is. And like I said before, the concepts I talked about, they are all not concepts that are coming. They are all being done today. If you look at this Shane today, they are testing thousands of designs. And they make AI evaluate in real time and then only choose which one wins, and that goes in front of the customer, right? And we have similar things based on personalized funnel per session. Temu does that. Klarna has eliminated most of the customer support. Mercado Libre does a lot of search, long tail search and all that stuff, making it easy for people to buy their products. So you're talking about Shopify. Shopify has their co-pilot, you turn it on and then you don't need to ask the merchant, you don't need to worry about what happens there. So my prescription is that go from picking the intent, building the loop and composing the stack. Typically people start from here and then do this automation. If anybody is interested, I'll make these slides available so you can take a look at it and you can follow up. Yeah. Quickly, few mistakes to avoid. This is something, hey, I want AI, that's the Wahoo Fitness I showed you, chatbot. And this is the chatbot also, again, same thing. And then I will just keep the model, but get the data from outside. You don't want that. You need to own your own data. Shipping, this is the AI governance nightmare. Somebody is going to call you if you are the chief security officer. And there is a big difference between what is composable and being fragmented, right? So it's very important that just because you have services in different places, but not well orchestrated, is not the story. It has to be composable based on what we talked about. So I go back to this, understand the intent, and you can build amazing stuff, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn. That's a QR code, and I'm happy to. I know that you don't have any time, but thanks for the